Hi, everybody. This is Steve Maggi from SMA Law Firm. Welcome to Building the Bridge. My guest today is Jacob Williamson, founder of Transatlantic Business Services based in New York. Thanks for being with us, Jacob.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
So what we both see in our business when we're helping companies set up in the US that have foreign entities is a mentality question of how to run operations. And one of the big issues is payroll, getting people on payroll, the reluctance to do so versus independent contractors. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's very apparent that foreign companies are reluctant to take people on the payroll in the US. And that may have to do with the fact that in European countries, the laws are very employee friendly. So it's hard to basically separate if it doesn't turn out to work. In the US, of course, number one, we work on a job offer, and it's employment at will. If the employee wants to leave tomorrow, they will. And if you see that it no longer works, I don't say that you can separate without any severance pays or something, but it's much less protected for the employee than in European countries. So in that way, I think they have to make sure that they leave the European mindset at the door when they enter the US. Because another thing is you can agree on a contract with a self-employed to work on a contractor basis. But even if the agreement is very clear, if the actual work being done and the relationship is an employer-employee relationship, it's substance over form. So
Right.
if that person eventually gets terminated by you and goes to a Department of Labor and claims that you actually had an employer-employee relationship, you're stuck. You're a foreign entity, you would definitely not get the benefit of the doubt if the person can show that there was actually an employer-employee kind of relationship. So keep that in mind. And last but not least, also keep in mind that the employer costs in the US compared to many European countries are much less. If you have a gross salary here of 100 without healthcare, you may actually, as an employer, only have a cost of maybe 115, so 15%, and that's conservative. Where in many European countries, it is much more expensive to actually have someone on the payroll than as a contractor. So in general, I would say, listen, don't be so reluctant. Take people on the payroll if you have any doubt. Now, if you do want to, and it helps on the immigration side as well, you know that better than anyone.
Well, it's interesting because the US perspective is very black or white. They see somebody on the payroll as being a direct employee. So if you're hiring people in the US as direct employees on payroll, that's considered job creation. But if they're independently contracted, then that's not considered job creation. And on the flip side, in Europe or in Latin America, if you have a company, in order to transfer that individual, you have to show that they were on the payroll for at least 1 year as a manager or executive or somebody with specialized knowledge. And there's no gray area there at all. So there are advantages sometimes when you're thinking about immigration too, right? To do it the American way.
Yeah. And if you're still reluctant and you want to do it on a contractor basis, TAPS is always happy to help you in making sure that you start your operations at arm's length, right? And that you really don't tick too many of the boxes like exclusivity, who controls the time, the use of certain titles. The title of a sales director actually implies that the person is employed by you. So you
Right.
can, it's hard to argue that a sales director that you terminated as a contractor was not an employee. Things like that you have to take into consideration, and let people contact TAPS, and we'll help them to stay at a safe distance from contractors if they really choose to start a relationship that way.
What about this growing tendency of use of PEOs? Can you explain that to some of our viewers who maybe that doesn't exist in their home countries?
Yeah, I think it starts with the fact that healthcare is incredibly expensive to offer to your employees. And it is definitely a recruitment tool. If you can afford to reimburse healthcare expenses and to set up a program, it's wonderful, because then you'll actually get the right people on board. But it comes with an expense. In addition, healthcare in the US is arranged by state. So if you're going to work with regional sales directors in various states, it's going to be pretty hard to find a healthcare package that will cover everyone. A PEO is a solution. A PEO is a professional employer organization, is a solution where they employ thousands of people in all those different states. Because of that, they have much better bargaining position with the healthcare companies, and they have insurance-wise a healthy pool with relatively less risk than when a health insurance company would onboard you with 3 or 4 or 5 people. So it's definitely an interesting solution, especially if you offer benefits, secondary benefits to the employees. It comes, of course, with a price. You pay a PEO either based on the height of the salary or a fixed fee. And you have to consider, it's a trade-off. Is it worth using a PEO and in that way getting better rates? Well, obviously, if you don't offer healthcare, why would you pay all the service fees of a PEO? There may be a reason, and that is because a PEO also takes care of registrations and tax, all kinds of tax matters. Don't overestimate that last part. Most of my clients, if we help them find a PEO, it is because of the healthcare situation.
And it's wonderful that tabs exists in order to balance all these things and to weigh them and to really be able to help each client case by case to evaluate whether they need that kind of solution or not. So if a company is launching in the US, they want to think about payroll versus independent contractors, PEOs, how do they get in touch with you to ask these questions?
Yeah, they can always contact us through bizdev@tabsinc.com. And we'd be happy to talk to them and weigh their options. Because for some companies with perhaps more blue collar workers, one PEO may be better than other companies with high net earners. Because then in those cases, you're perhaps better off working with a PEO that works on fixed fees rather than on a percentage of the salary.
Wow, very complicated. Thanks so much for educating our viewers and giving us some of your knowledge and your time, Jacob.
Thanks so much for having me.